John Helsley and Kyle Fredrickson here at Boone Pickens Stadium. First day of Cowboy football practice, Kyle. And some big news. Sometimes we don't get that on day one. Some big news today. 3 Oklahoma State players placed on scholarship.
Yeah, Mike Gundy has obviously over the years been a staunch supporter of walk-ons. He has the walk-on wall in the facility here. And we found out right as practice was about to start that Chad Whitener, linebacker, Blake Jarwin, the tight end, and center Brad Lundblade all going from walk-on to scholarship status. They basically had a bit of a speech from Gundy before practice today announcing that was going to happen, a rousing applause from the group. Obviously a special moment for those kids. I thought it was interesting, none of them had yet told their parents, though. It happened so quickly, but you can imagine that for mom and dad, it's as big of a day as is for those guys.
2 of those guys, Jarwin and Lundblade, actually played significant roles last year. Chad Whitener expected to be a part of the linebacker rotation. So pretty natural, I would guess, that those 3 guys.
Yeah, especially with Lundblade, he's projected as the starter at center. Of all the guys who are just going to be put on scholarship, that makes probably the most sense. But Jarwin as well, like you mentioned. But even in Whitener's case, with the linebacker being as deep as it is this year, it's unknown whether he's going to play much of a role. But he's been talked about as one of those guys who could really make an impact. But in terms of the day overall, I thought one interesting point was that today was a bit of a walkthrough for this team. And in years past, sometimes these freshmen on day one of fall camp will get thrown right into drills and everything, but they kind of took it back a notch. Why do you think that might have been important for this group?
Well, I think one thing is when you're dealing with freshmen or guys that are new to the program, you come out here and you have this first big day. Where do you go? How do you act? That sort of stuff. Get it out of the way on day one. Tomorrow when they come back, everybody should sort of know where to go. I'm sure there'll still be some yelling at guys over here, over there. But I think Mike Gundy felt like this was a good way to just kind of get things unwrapped and start moving forward. Kyle, one more question for you. What are the things now as we start to look forward in this camp that you feel like are really the issues still for this team?
Well, the Cowboys are pretty solid across the board. There's a few different position groups that we're looking at who's going to be the starter. First off, being running back. We talked to Rennie Childs earlier today, said that summer was another big leap for him. He worked on some of that front line explosion, that first step, and that when you add a guy in like Chris Carson, the junior college transfer, everyone else kind of picks up their game a little bit. So you look at that position, you look at who's going to return kicks. There's a group of maybe 20 guys, I bet, who could really compete for this job, who maybe want the job. That list is going to have to get whittled down. But in terms of that, the glaring storyline entering this season is Mason Rudolph's play. He had a big summer, working at the Madding Passing Academy, working with Zach Robinson. So is he going to be the guy that we saw the last 2 games of the season? Through these early fall camp practices, we'll get a little bit of a glimpse to see how much he's developed.
You get 29 opportunities before the first game, and we've not ever used more than 26. The way our practices are set up now, we've condensed them considerably over the last few years, and so we decided to use a practice to teach, and we did that today, and I like how it went. We'll talk it as a staff in the morning and see what the coaches think, but I was encouraged by the practice.
Our defense is very impressive from the defensive line with both the big-time defensive ends and the corners. Both senior, junior and senior corners are real experienced, and then 2 great safeties, and linebackers as well. But defense as a whole looking great, and offensively, all the receivers coming back. It's real encouraging for me to be able to put the ball in those guys' hands, and all the way around. I think every position has improved for sure.
You like what you see from Chris Carson? He looks pretty big out there.
He's a big dude. He runs well, and he's got a real good attitude. Kind of came in and got right after it, despite people's expectations on him. So it's everyone's working collectively real good.
Yeah, I feel like everybody looks good coming back, but it's going to be a daily progression. We're going to work to get better every day. For the veterans, it's the same thing. Just once Gundy says what he has to say, we're going to look at the young guys that are still confused, and we're going to point them in the right direction and be like, look, this is how we do things as the Oklahoma State Cowboy.
As the games came, we had Baylor, and then we had OU. He transformed from Baylor to OU like none other. You got OU bowl game. He elevated his game even more. So he's just, as far as I can see, he's just been elevating his game and trying to get better. But at the same time, he's maturing and becoming more of like go and do it type of guys more than a rah-rah, like let's go type of guy.
But what did it take to get from where you guys were to where you are now?
It just took time. It just took time. Everything takes time. And we come out here last year, we're learning about each other. We're learning how to play with each other. And this year we know what guys are going to be. We know where the strength is, the weakness is, and we know what different guys can do. So it just feels good to be back out here with guys that I played with last year, especially shout out to my San Antonio dudes, a couple of us out there. So it feels good to play with them.
All right. John Helsley, Kyle Fredrickson, day one of Cowboy Camp. We'll be with you throughout the season. Stay with us on newsok.com and every day in the Oklahoma.